There is one move in human psychology so powerful, so psychologically devastating to the person on the receiving end, that most people are too afraid to ever use it. It is not an argument. It is not a confrontation. It is not a perfectly crafted response. It is silence, distance, absence. It is walking away. And in the next 7 minutes, I am going to show you why this single move changes everything. What it does psychologically to the person you leave. Why most people refuse to do it, even when they should. And how to finally develop the capacity to walk away from anything that is no longer serving you. Why walking away is the ultimate power move. Every interaction between two people involves an implicit negotiation of power. Not always consciously, not always visibly, but always. And in every negotiation, the person with the least attachment to the outcome holds the most power. The one who needs the deal less controls the deal. The one who can walk away without it defines the terms of the interaction. This principle applies to everything: business, relationships, friendships, conflict, negotiation, romance. When you demonstrate genuinely, not as a tactic, that you can leave, that you are not dependent, that your existence does not require this person, this job, this relationship, this validation, you fundamentally change the dynamic. Because the moment someone realizes they cannot take your presence for granted, your presence becomes valuable again. Not because you played a game, because you demonstrated reality. The reality that nothing about you is desperate, nothing about you is trapped, and nothing about you requires what they are offering. That is not manipulation, that is self-possession, and it is the rarest, most magnetic quality a human being can have. What actually happens to someone when you walk away? This is the part most people do not expect. When you walk away from someone who has been taking you for granted, the psychological response in them is almost immediate. The pattern has been disrupted. The expected behavior, the staying, the chasing, the trying harder, did not occur. The brain does not know how to process the absence of what it expected. Then comes anxiety, because human beings are wired to respond to social loss as threat. The person who dismissed you, who took you for granted, who treated you as a given, suddenly experiences the neurological equivalent of loss, even if they never consciously valued you. Then, and this is the one that surprises people, comes reassessment. The brain, faced with absence, begins to reconstruct the value of what was there. Memories surface differently. Qualities that were invisible become visible. The thing that was taken for granted becomes, in its absence, something that mattered. This is not always enough to change behavior. Sometimes people learn nothing. Sometimes they come back having learned nothing. But the psychological process, the disruption, the anxiety, the reassessment, happens almost universally, because the brain does not recognize value until it confronts scarcity. Why most people cannot walk away, even when they should. The capacity to walk away requires one thing above all others: the belief that you will be okay without it. And that belief, for many people, is the thing that was taken from them earliest. If you grew up in an environment where love was conditional, where connection could be withdrawn as punishment, where abandonment was a real threat, your nervous system developed a specific response to the possibility of loss: panic, desperation, an overwhelming need to restore connection at any cost. This response was adaptive then. In childhood, losing the attachment figure was genuinely catastrophic. But it was wired into your nervous system. And now, in adult relationships, it fires whenever someone important threatens to leave, or whenever you consider leaving yourself. The panic says stay, fix it, try harder, do whatever is necessary to preserve the connection. Even when the connection is hurting you, even when the connection was never real, even when staying is costing you your self-respect, your growth, your peace. The nervous system does not distinguish between a childhood where leaving meant abandonment and an adult situation where leaving means freedom. You have to teach it the difference. The things people stay in long after they should have left. Relationships where they are consistently treated as less than they are worth. Jobs where they are overlooked, underpaid, and undervalued, but the fear of uncertainty keeps them in place. Friendships where the dynamic is entirely one-directional, where they give and the other person receives, and somehow it has been this way for years. Conversations where they have already said everything that needed to be said, but they keep talking, keep explaining, keep trying to make the other person understand. Situations where their presence is not valued, but their absence has never been tested. In all of these, the person stays because walking away feels more dangerous than staying. And in all of these, the staying is slowly, quietly, consistently draining the life from them. The psychology of people who can walk away. There is a specific psychological quality shared by people who have genuinely developed the capacity to leave what is not serving them. It is not coldness, it is not indifference, it is not emotional unavailability. It is a settled, quiet belief in their own worth that does not require external confirmation. They do not stay in situations that diminish them, because they have built enough internal evidence of their own value that they do not need the validation of staying to feel worthy. They do not chase people who are not chasing back, because they understand at a deep level that their presence is not something to be auditioned for. They do not fight for a seat at tables where they were never truly welcome, because they know they are capable of building their own. This is not something they were born with, it is something they built. Through repeated choices, through walking away from small things first, and gradually developing the muscle for walking away from large ones. How to start? Step 1. Acknowledge what you are actually afraid of. Not the practical consequences of leaving, the emotional ones. Are you afraid of being alone? Of being wrong? Of what people will think? Of the grief of losing something, even something that was hurting you? Name the fear precisely, because unnamed fears have unlimited power over you. Named fears become something you can examine, something you can question, something you can move through. Step 2. Test the belief that you need it. Whatever you believe you cannot leave, imagine your life without it. Not the immediate aftermath. 6 months from now, a year from now. Where are you? How do you feel? What became available to you that was blocked before? Most people discover that the imagined future without the thing they are clinging to is not as devastating as they feared. Sometimes, it is actually better. Step 3. Start with small exits. You do not begin by leaving the big things. You begin by leaving small things that are not serving you. The conversation that is going nowhere. The social obligation that drains you. The habit that you have outgrown. Every small exit builds evidence. Evidence that you survived the leaving. That the world does not end, that you are capable of more than you thought, that walking away is not the same as losing. Step 4. Let the leaving be quiet. The most powerful exits require no announcement, no explanation, no final dramatic statement. You simply stop being available for what was diminishing you. No closure-seeking conversation that will never actually provide closure. Just, gradually, quietly, completely, no longer there. That silence is deafening, and it communicates everything that words never could. The things that are right for you will not require you to abandon yourself to keep them. The people who are right for you will not require you to shrink to fit into their lives. The situations that are right for you will not consistently cost you your peace in exchange for your presence. When something requires all of that from you, the answer is not to try harder. The answer is to turn around and walk. Subscribe to MindVault. Share this with someone who has been staying too long somewhere they should have left.